And a dramatic twist today over the deregistration plan of a lower court of political parties. The appeal court seems to have given a very strong position, saying there has to be a stay of execution on the planned deregistration of 5 political parties by IPAC as ordered by a federal high court yesterday. And the military neutralized a terror kingpin planning an attack on a Kogi school, and now a death sentence pronounced on a female courier in Katsina who was planning and working with terrorists. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Okimale, live for you here in our Abuja studio. This is one of those days that are so different in terms of what, in the early hours of the day, the political projections and the stories that are making the round, all of a sudden in the last 1 hour, everything is totally changed. It was a dramatic twist from what we saw yesterday, from anger in the hearts and the eyes and the mouths of politicians who have been affected by the decision of Justice Lifu's court yesterday. It does look like a sledgehammer is coming from the upper court. The different sides to it, the political angle, the legal angle, an understanding of how our courts operate and the procedure in delivering judgments in court, whether or not you need to respect the court that is higher than you, or what do you think about what has happened in the past in terms of, let me use legal terms so that because of some of our viewers who are not legally minded, but then we'll be getting some insight into what the appeal court has said today. Appeal court has said, look, you cannot go against our position as a higher court. So stay execution, you cannot do register parties, INEC, you must stop. And there's a whole lot to learn tonight about that decision. So for now, the parties that were declared dead yesterday, legally speaking, have resurrected today. There is a Lazarus scenario playing out in our political scene today. So I'm going to be giving you all of the details you need to know. But let me tell you some stuff about security tonight. For many Nigerians, it might be a familiar story of fear and violence linked to armed banditry. But this time, security forces struck a decisive blow on some terrorists and bandits who were planning an attack on a school in Kogi. So we understand that the Nigerian Armed Forces and other security agencies in the coordinated operation in Kogi State led to the elimination of a notorious bandit kingpin, Ibrahim Batuji, describing the operation as a major success in the fight against criminal networks. The government said the development underscores ongoing efforts to restore security and dismantle armed groups threatening communities across the country, while reaffirming its commitment to sustaining pressure on criminal elements and their sponsors. We understand that this group in Kogi State were planning to attack a school where students were planning and sitting for WAEC final examinations. So in a similar scenario, we've seen a decisive pronouncement coming from a court in Katsina State. The federal court in Katsina State sentenced a female arms courier, Hawa Mukhtar, to death by hanging, finding her guilty of conspiracy to commit, aid, and abet terrorism. The conviction followed a successful prosecution by the Department of State Services, the DSS, marking the second death sentence secured by the agency, the DSS, this month in terrorism-related cases. Mukhtar was arrested by the DSS operatives on the 16th of September 2023 at the Jibia Motor Park in Katsina State, while allegedly attempting to transport 438 rounds of 7.62 millimeter ammunition to a notorious bandit leader identified as Ado, who operates in the Dumbrum Forest area of Zamfara State. Security sources said the DSS subsequently filed a 2-count charge against the suspect before High Court Number 3 in Katsina, presided over by Justice A.B. Bawale. According to the sources, the court reviewed witness testimonies, exhibits tendered by the prosecution and submissions by both prosecution and defense counsel before reaching its verdict. The court held that the prosecution approved its case beyond reasonable doubt and found the defendant guilty on both counts. So Hawa Mukhtar might be facing and might die by hanging after being found guilty. Of course, you heard yesterday that the federal government is moving so fast in ending those terror suspects that are being in prison awaiting judgment, and they are fast-tracking that process. That those who kill and those who are maiming innocent Nigerians should be sent to their early graves too. All right? There's so much more to talk about a major topic tonight, and we're going to be dealing with it decisively. But that's going to be after I served you with your political roundup stories.
Justice Mohammed Umar of the Federal High Court Abuja has revoked the bail granted to the presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, AAC, Omoyele Sowore. Justice Umar revoked Sowore's bail following his failure to appear in court for the continuation of his trial. At Tuesday's proceedings, counsel for the prosecution, Kehinde Akinolu, informed the court that Sowore was absent despite being aware of the scheduled hearing. Akinolu urged the court to revoke the defendant's bail, citing his failure to appear and his alleged persistent efforts to delay the trial. In his ruling, Justice Umar noted that although Sowore had written to the court seeking an adjournment, the letter did not provide any reason for the request. The National Assembly is calling for a comprehensive approach to combating insecurity in Nigeria. Speaking at the National Security Seminar in Abuja, organized by the Alumni Association of the National Defense College, former Senate President Ahmed Lawan emphasized the importance of collective action against terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, and other security threats. Senator Lawan, who represented the Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio, harps on the need for stronger border patrol measures as part of efforts to combat insecurity.
It is now time more than at any other time in our history to have all hands on deck to deal with menace of insecurity in Nigeria.
A chieftain of our court party, Mr. Gbenga Olawekbo Ashim, had to scrap the recent court judgment which orders the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to deregister some political parties, including the Accord Party, as judicial rascality, insisting that it violates the directives of the Court of Appeal on the matter. Mr. Olawekbo also argues that the Accord Party meets all the constitutional requirements for party registration, as it has elected representatives at local government, state, and the federal legislative levels. He described the judgment as a ploy to make Nigeria a one-party system, a concern he says opposition political parties have continued to raise.
There is no legal subterfuge, that can obliterate this fundamental pillar of our democracy. Nigeria is a multi-party state. It will not be a one-party state. It will not be a two-party state.
The Rivers State chapter of the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria says it is mobilizing its members for the 2027 elections. The PFN State Chairman, Reverend Minabi Dagogo Jack, made this known during a press briefing in Port Harcourt. Reverend Dagogo Jack expressed displeasure at the poor security situation in the country and said the body has started the process of mobilizing its members across the 23 local government areas of the state. The Senate Committee on Public Accounts has cleared the Nigerian Customs Service on allegations that it failed to remit 62.2 billion naira into the Federation account, as contained in the 2019 audit report of the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation. The committee reached the decision today during an investigative session with the Comptroller General of Customs, Mr. Bashir Adeniyi, over 77 audit queries raised against the agency in the 2019 and 2020 audit report. The committee, however, resolved to establish an ad hoc reconciliation panel to review the remaining 76 audit queries and report back for further consideration. At the hearing today, representatives of the Auditor General's office informed lawmakers that while the Customs Service generated more than 691 billion naira in revenue in 2017, only about 629 billion naira was remitted to the Federation account, leaving an outstanding balance of 62.2 billion naira.
And then we need to move to our major story of the day. So the Court of Appeal in Abuja today has suspended the execution of the judgment delivered by Justice Peter Alifo Deregistering the African Democratic Party ADC, Action People's Party APP, Action Alliance AA, Accord Party AP, and the Zenith Labour Party ZLP. The appellate court described the development as the highest form of judicial impertinence, stating that the trial judge brazenly disregarded its earlier order. The panel of justices held that Justice Lifu exhibited judicial rascality by going ahead to hear and make the order despite the order of the Court of Appeal and the pendency of the matter before the court. It ordered a stay of the execution of the judgment. It was only yesterday that doom was pronounced on those 5 political parties, and those political parties were declared dead, legally speaking, and perhaps some of them might be closing shops and saying bye-bye to political participation. But today, if you are a student of the Bible, if you know what they call Lazarus in the Bible, how Jesus rose him from the dead when all hope was lost, it was a Lazarus situation for these 5 political parties in the last 1 hour, and a very landmark decision or judicial direction in our country today. And let me get some real player right who sat right in front of the courtroom today and who are part of those who are being hit also by this judgment. I'm being joined by the national chairman of the ZLP, the Zenith Labour Party, a lawyer and a former presidential candidate, Barrister Dan Wanyao. Thanks so much indeed for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. I'm the current presidential candidate too.
Of the party, yes.
Not former.
You've run before, but you're still on the ballot right now. Unfortunately, from yesterday's pronouncement, you would have not been able to.
No, it's not true.
Yeah,
we'll
get into it. Yeah. And I have the leader and the chairman of all of the political party under the umbrella of IPAC, who is also the national chairman of APM, Alhaji Yusuf Dantele. Thanks so much indeed.
Thank you for having me, Isha.
It was a solidarity attendance in court today, as far as you are concerned.
Yes, solidarity, yes, and to defend democracy that we swore to as Inter-Party Advisory Council. What we had Council General Assembly yesterday to review what has been happening. I was in this studio. We mentioned we talked about the Electoral Act, how some of the provisions of the Act is meant to disenfranchise some persons, and then some of the developments that are happening afterwards. The election is a process, it is not an event. INEC rolled out timetable the first time the Electoral Act was reviewed. INEC timetable, was released, and INEC timetable was reviewed. Okay, altering some of the arrangements. Then after that, we now have all the programs in the timetable became a crash program that parties have to rush to put up till now. I am aware, and I think every Nigerian is aware that there are so many people who want to aspire or contest for certain offices in Nigeria that cannot because of the provisions of the Electoral Act. And then you move from there after allowing the parties to go and conduct primary elections across the 36 states of Nigeria to contest their election. They have produced candidates. It's just for INEC to release the code. Then some faceless organization in the name of something legislative, former legislators that we do not know what their contribution is to democracy in Nigeria went to court. This we are made to understand that this association was registered just last year, 2025, but maybe for this purpose. The whole thing is it is painful, and then as Nigerians, we should be ashamed of ourselves if we are in a position of leadership to deal with what is happening. Africa is supposed to look up to Nigeria as a big brother. We have gone to Benin Republic to enthrone democracy. But here, we are now busy trying to see that we disenfranchise some people, we exclude some people from the system. Why? So that is why IPAC will have to come out fully to say, no, this is not what the ethics of democracy is supposed to be. It is about the people. It is about leadership. It is about representation. It's about inclusion. It's about fairness. It's about competition. Nigerians have to choose who they want democratically. We shouldn't bring in some things. Why would you come up parties that have got... Adeleke is going to contest election as the governor of Osun in 1.5 or 2 months. There is an election in Ekiti. Some of these parties are contesting election. Parties have produced candidates, and the next thing you want to do is no, it is not acceptable.
Do you see, and those who say the selection or the 5 political parties involved here who would have been injured by yesterday's ruling of Justice Lifu's court? Does it surprise you, the combination of those political parties? Why do you think those political parties? Because they said they did not meet compliance standards.
Which is not true. Which is not true. INEC, that's the regulatory body, is in court. INEC said no, that these parties meet the standard to remain as political parties. So what is the interest of the people, okay, who are coming to say they should register the parties? If parties are to be registered, I think that should come from INEC.
You see the hand of the ruling party in all of this?
I don't know. Whoever is involved, the person should be ashamed of himself as Nigerian, that with all the problems we have, that with the children that have been abducted, and some on the election have been slaughtered, and the general being killed like chicken, and what is happening, the xenophobic attack on Nigerians in South Africa and in some other African countries, it is a call for us to come back and fix Nigeria. And Nigerians should elect who they want to fix Nigeria, not anybody deciding what should be done. It is enough.
Let me call on to a servant in the temple of justice, Chief Dan Owanyawu. And I'd like you to appraise Justice Peter Lifu's ruling of yesterday. Before I come to the position of the Court of Appeal today, what is your assessment of Justice Peter Lifu's ruling from yesterday?
He was either compromised or he compromised himself. You see, law based on facts and evidence. It's not based on persuasion. It's not based on somebody teleguiding you. ADC won election in the last exercise. Veto Accord. Veto my party. These were deposed before the judge. And in that particular section 225A, they won. The minimum threshold for a political party to cross is winning 1 councillorship seat.
And your party did?
We won 50 local governments, 176 councillors, Abia, Nasarawa, Rivers before they took Rivers. Ditto most of the parties. Lifu did not look at the evidence. He was not interested. He was just pursuing an agenda. He was just pursuing an agenda. Even the local standard of those that came to court. The issue was raised. They wanted to amend the name they came in with without an order of court. Lifu gave them locus. And so many other things that went wrong during the process. That was how some parties went to Court of Appeal. Put these things up before the Court of Appeal. Court of Appeal say no. Wait, tarry a while. Tarry a while. Let me hear this thing.
And it's supposed to be a judgment.
The judgment was supposed to be on the 5th. The judgment of Lifu was supposed to be on the 5th. But the Court of Appeal gave this stay on the 22nd of last month. On the 5th, we went to court. Lifu did not come out. Then yesterday, 9, 10, they opened the WhatsApp group, communicated the lawyers to come to court for judgment. Then he gave his judgment. You see, but first of all, let me thank the learned justices of the Court of Appeal. We still have men of integrity in the judiciary. Forget about Lifu. You know, there are the trio. There are the trio in the Court of Appeal. that belongs to one particular person. Anytime you have a case against to the truth, run away. Don't ask me the truth. Don't ask me the 3 judges.
You will come to
because
he will come to equity.
Because you know them.
You know he will come to equity. If you are alleging, you must be able to prove.
So let me tell you.
Who are the trio?
The cases are there.
Who are the trio?
Lifu. In fact, the Court of Appeal said it today. That he is not fit to be on the bench. The Court of Appeal says so today. So it doesn't have to come from our mouth. Your conduct in courts, your behavior during trials, during processes in courts, will give you out that you are working for a group of people. But let me warn. You see, I'm a member of this profession. And some of the things happening, we were not taught in school. A judge will come to court. What does he do? He's focused on arriving at his destination without looking at facts and evidence. With the Court of Appeal addressed today, with all the facts, all these courts, assuming without conceding, that all these 5 parties did not file anything before Justice Lifu. INEC is the only body given the rights, the constitutional right by our constitution to register and deregister political parties. INEC coming to court to say, we have done due diligence on these 5 parties. They passed the threshold established by Section 225A. That should suffice. So why should Justice Lifu, who gave him the evidence that these parties did not qualify? How did they get it? INEC charged with the responsibility is telling you, no, stop. We have records that all these 5 parties are qualified to continue to exist as a political party. But Lifu say, no, I have it in my heart. I have it in my head. They are not qualified. And I'm arriving at that decision, which arrived yesterday. He made a caricature of himself. And the Court of Appeal says so today. We have been in court since
you may, as a servant in the temple of justice, you may disagree with a court of how the judgment because it doesn't appeal or it doesn't favor you. But we must be careful the way we call names on those who
that is
at the bench.
There's no that judge in the court that did the judgment, that justice, Peter Lifu. Why will I not call his name?
The point I'm making is the manner in which you're talking about that justice. One needs to be careful.
No.
Because
Court of Appeal says so today.
So you are referencing Court of Appeal.
Higher court than him. That this person is not fit to be in the bench. It was predicated on the facts in our profession. That is what we call stare decisis. Mm-hmm. You must obey the order of a higher court. That is what where you come, you have hierarchy of courts. Mm-hmm. Yesterday, Justice Lifu was reminded by all the counsels in the case that Court of Appeal, that's a case pending before Court of Appeal. Court of Appeal has stayed proceedings in this case. He said, I'm aware. I will take care of that in my judgment. The other person raised it. I'm aware. I'll take care of that in my judgment. In fact, there was one counsel he warned. You should be careful. He went that. All these things came before the Court of Appeal today. All.
Let me ask you quickly. The Court of Appeal seems to have given some temporary relief in this state of execution. But should Nigerians see this as a victory for constitutional democracy, or is simply a temporary reprieve from an eventual deregistration that could happen?
No, what Court of Appeal did was say, look, stop. Don't go ahead. Let me hear the whole
temporary reprieve.
Yes, let me hear the matter. Let me hear the matter. Because it was also brought before the court that the election will be taking place on Saturday in some constituencies across the country. Some of these parties are on the ballot. You cannot go ahead and execute it. You see, the problem we have in this country is that when we see white, we call it black. Just as you are telling me, don't call Lifu. There are no 2 judges.
I'm not saying don't call Lifu. I'm saying because for whatever misconduct. Just a moment, sir. For whatever misconduct, a member of a judicial panel or a member of the bench does, you know, sir, that the right way to deal with such a person is the NJC to take the matter before the NJC. It might not be as a citizen of Nigeria, and especially because you are also a lawyer, that one has to be careful in the manner in which you address a judge or a justice in any of our courts.
When a masquerade start misbehaving in the market square, you will tell him what, or let me put it better. When a masquerade is behaving in a manner that it has become uncontrollable, you will tell him how he was made. It's like a king that doesn't say the truth, a king that lies. You will put basket in front on your face and tell him the truth. Look, we are not afraid of anything. Most people today are tired. We're not afraid of all these things. The problem we have in this country is that we don't say the truth. You see white, you call it black. I don't want to even tell you those behind this thing because you will also ask me, how did I know?
Who are those? I
say, come on. So ask me another question.
No, because Nigerians. So the problem we don't call a spade a spade.
Yes.
And we have always been covering up people. The day we start calling out people and calling them the names of who they are, I think we start solving the problem of Nigeria. Is it not the saving and not calling them terror financiers? We refuse to name them. We refuse to name them. If there is someone who is badly behaved, I don't call them out. Who are the people?
We saw the so-called plaintiffs and the respondents in court today. You look at them. These are people who have failed in their professions.
Exactly. Old men.
Hungry-looking old men. They came there. They are told to go and do that. Even when they filed this case in December last year, the Labour Party was not there. There was hue and cry that it was because of ADC. They went and added the Labour Party, added Accord and others. They have also taken APM and RM to court just 2 days ago. The same group.
Oh, APM and RM now
yes, they've taken them to court. So you can see they don't want contest. Why is it that they don't want contest? Are you doing this thing, for example, that the caliber of person like Atiku will not contest election? Or Olongpa, you are lying. Are you saying I will not contest for president? I want to be president to correct things. I will contest. I have passed through the processes of primaries according to the law. My party has won all the necessary winnings within the Electoral Act, which I deposed to the court with the certificate of returns, just like others. A judge refused to see it. You said I should not call his name.
So the question,
was he born by a man?
This is just a temporary reprieve. What eventually this goes down and the deregistration? This is not the first time we are seeing the deregistration of political parties in Nigeria. What happens?
You see, I don't want to anticipate things. We are very sure, just like when you are doing your intro, you said some of these parties may be packing, closing shops and all that. That has never disturbed us. We knew we won election, Shehu. You cannot use your hand to cover pregnancy. It is on record. You can't use your hand and cover pregnancy. It must be seen. And this has been brought before the learned justices of the Court of Appeal. We saw them today. We saw they were asking relevant questions. We saw that they were interested in getting into the justice of the matter. So these facts will be brought before them. If these facts were brought before you, and INEC is saying these people are qualified, that's why I told you that assuming we didn't put any defense, and INEC as a body charged with the responsibility of registering and registering political parties, came up with the resolution, came up with this position that, look, these people are qualified, they should not be registered. Shouldn't that suffice? SLIFU has no powers to order INEC to deregister a party because the Constitution gives INEC the sole power to register political parties.
For those who are criticizing Justice SLIFU, but let me ask you, in all honesty, there are those who think that there are lazy political parties. There are political parties who are just making the numbers. They are just on the list. Sometimes we think that our ballot paper is too long. In the real sense of it, Can political parties exist and not do anything, not meeting the constitutional threshold? Is it not possible for us to also challenge political parties to say, look, you cannot exist for the sake of existence. You've got to do your room as political parties. Is that not a lesson for political parties? This particular lawsuit, it may have an upside too, isn't it?
Thank you, Sean. We should always address the foundations of problems. Are some people who are also maybe suffering the same thing that they did yesterday. Political party is a public property. It's not meant to be anybody's property. And for that reason, parties were funded, subventions were granted by federal government, like every other public institution. And that is why INEC regulates and also audit our accounts,
the books,
fundings and campaign expenses and all. Then because you think Mr. ABC is in party ABC, you should stifle the party of funds so that your own party, you that you are in government, can now have the resources, okay, to drive your parties. Now, there are so many things that your party, the parties in government, can do that it will be difficult for the man who is a farmer like me, okay, to bring his money from the farm to go and begin to do. You understand? So, until parties are established, okay, to operate on equal or fair footing, this will continue. The parties, no party is weak. APC is a combination or it's a summation of about 3 political parties. And they are in government. They have about 30-something governors today. So it is easier for them to drive some of the things. Like the membership registration with Menin inclusion, APC started a long time ago and they ran this thing very effectively, very smoothly because they have the funds. But some other parties cannot, or they can't do that. The same way the issue of primaries that we are talking about, direct, indirect, and the consensus. Now you can see the outcome of consensus. You understand? The outcome of consensus as it is, because most parties do not have the wherewithal to go for direct primaries. Now the consensus have succeeded in taking so many people out because some parties are afraid or wouldn't want to go to unnecessary litigations, thereby disenfranchising a lot of Nigerians. So if we must get these things right, the constitution, the enabling law must be designed in a way that it will be classical, that will favor Nigeria.
So this for you,
because that is why I'm coming. I'm sorry. That is why when this issue of Electoral Act came, the Interparty Advisory Council and other stakeholders in this country met with the National Assembly Joint Committee on the review of Constitution and Electoral Act. 100% of what we put in, 100% of what INEC put in to the legislature, none of them was considered. I was listening to one of the legislators who was speaking in a local dialect. Maybe he thought I am one of them. Allow them to do what they want to do. If we go, we'll do what we want to do. I had it. It is a very bad one. And that, if we are not careful, where Nigeria is going into, all of us, whether you are in power, you are not in power, you will regret that you are in Nigeria, unless we allow the right thing to be done. Some people who were in power yesterday, today they are fighting. What they did, they had the opportunity to correct some of these things yesterday that they didn't correct it. So for you to have it, you can, if you like, correct it. If you like, don't correct it. You one day, if you don't leave the power will leave you.
Let me ask you: is this more of politics than law?
It is more politics. Yes, it is. It's about politics. Because now look at it. For some time now, about 60, let me say 50% of major opposition parties who have candidates to field do not have stable leadership. Today, this person is the leader of that party. Tomorrow, that person is the leader of that party, the chairman of that party. So it's a very unstable leadership using the court or a few elements in the judiciary to orchestrate these things. Then today, parties have succeeded. Some parties got some got judgment to be registered. Parties have succeeded after fielding candidates. Now you are now sure that they are candidates. The next thing is, how do we clean up the parties illegally? And here's where we are.
Illegally,
so illegally
through legal means.
Yeah, thank you very much. So we must be very careful by what we are planting today, because the children are watching us. The students are also learning. While in the court today, some lawyers were pointing that law students were in the court. What kind of judicial precedent are we setting today?
All right. Give me a moment. We need to go on a break. But you mentioned something earlier that in Osun,
yes.
Interestingly, in Osun State, there was a flag off of the campaign.
Yes,
and there are those who said that before the campaign, the party on which platform Governor Adeleke was standing on had been deregistered. But tonight, I'll try to get a feeler of what is happening in the camp of Governor Adeleke. Part of the political parties that would have been gone by the judgment of yesterday. But we'll be back, everyone, after this break. I've been speaking with Chieftain, who is the national chairman of the ZLP and the presidential candidate of the party. And Alhaji Yusuf Dantale is the chairman of APM, equally the chairman of the umbrella body of all political parties in Nigeria, IPAC. Thanks so much, gentlemen, for joining us tonight at the program. Give me a moment, because there are those who said today would have been a disastrous day for Governor Adeleke, because he moved from the PDP to a court party, and what would have been disastrous would have been if that party had been deregistered. But, well, there's a reprieve coming from the appeal court. Let me bring in a member of the House of Representatives, Honorable Bamdele Salam, who joins us virtually from Oshogbo in Osun State, after a court party did its campaign flag off. Thank you so much, Honorable Bamdele Salam, for joining us tonight.
Good evening. Thank you.
Your party took a big risk. Yesterday, it was deregistered. You went to go and do a flag-off campaign. What a big risk.
So that's not a risk. We were actually not perturbed by that fortunate pronouncement of Justice Lifu. We regarded it as just a test of faith. We knew very well that that judgment could not stand, because it does not have any legal or moral standing. It does not have any precedence to lay itself on to stand on. So the governor was not perturbed, and we're not perturbed, and that was why we went on with the massive flag off of the campaign we had today in Oshogbo, Osun State, where we received thousands of new members into the party, had the endorsement from professional bodies and unions and organizations, and received the flag from the national chairman of the Accord. As far as we are concerned, that judgment was just a small distraction, not anything fundamental enough to weaken our resolve to pursue this electioneering campaign and, of course, win the election for Governor Ademola Adeleke.
But, I mean, what is I'd like to know what Senator, the governor, what he felt like when that judgment came yesterday. So I'm imagining if I was celebrating my birthday tomorrow morning, and by tonight I'm being told that the venue has been closed, the woman who is making the cake has traveled out, and the caterer also had refused to deliver the food. I'm imagining what was going through the mind of Senator Adeleke as of yesterday. About this time yesterday, the news was everywhere about the deregistration of the political party and the yellow that he was going to be wearing, which would have been turned to black clothes.
I understand you, Sheo. You see, the truth is that if you follow the trajectory of this case, you will discover that, so many things were wrong. From not just the speed of the case before, Justice Lifu, not just the speed, but certain pronouncements which he made in the course of the hearing. For example, it is a settled principle in law that when you have a matter and somebody comes to apply to join, because the outcome of that proceeding will substantially affect his rights, you don't refuse him the right of a joinder. So Justice Lifu refused the right of a joinder to Governor Ademola Adeleke, to the candidate of the Accord in Ekiti, and some other interested parties who came to say, well, this matter you are hearing, if you decide it either way, will be affected. We want to come and have a legal representation so that we can make our case so that you don't rule against that interest. He refused. You remember, Sheo, that when this case even first came up, Accord was not part of the defendant at all. The so-called Association of Former Legislators, which I liken to that infamous ABN of Arthur Zeribe of the June 12th era, did not include Accord as part of the defendants. And when the case started, they just woke up one day and said, "Oh, why not? Let's have Accord also join." Ostensibly because they are afraid of Governor Adeleke being on the ballot in Osun, and they were boasting everywhere that, they were going to run, they were going to play a kick into a goalpost without a goalkeeper, Adeleke will not run for an election. And again, against established principles of law, this same Justice Lifu granted that application by the plaintiff and the claimant to join Accord as a defendant. It is not, it doesn't really tally with the position of the law on how you can bring, fresh parties into a case of that nature. So all these matters that we have seen had made us know that one way or the other, it appears that Justice Lifu had his own end in mind that he was going to. So Governor Adeleke was not shocked. The only thing that shocked us was that he could brazenly enter a judgment in a matter on which the Court of Appeal had ordered a stay of proceeding. I mean, that one was an overboard, was out of this world, and that was the only shock. It was not really what he did, that was shocking. And we have faith. Governor Adeleke has faith in the judicial process and knows that even if the lower court gives a judgment that does not stand the test of the of the law, there are superior courts that you can appeal to that will give you judgment. And that was actually what you said yesterday when that judgment came, to say that he was confident that that judgment will be upheld by the Court of Appeal in this instant case.
Honorable, there is a long list of your colleagues, both in Senate and the House, who are not going to be returning. And there are those who are watching and laughing at some of you lawmakers. They say, it serves you right. When you were amending the law, the electoral law, you were doing it the way you wanted. Now some of you are receiving the very painful end of the stick. Now I understand about 70 or so of the senators may not be returning. I mean, what lesson do you think that you have learned in the electoral amendment process? Because there are areas and portions of the electoral law that have been badly amended, looks selfish, looks very primordial, and a lot of Nigerians say it took us backwards.
To some extent, I agree with you that there were certain things that were done by the parliament in the course of amending the electoral that we should not have done. And I made this position also even on the floor of the House. For example, I was one of those lawmakers who believe very strongly that it was wrong for us to legislate the conduct of primaries and restrict political parties to only two options. From inception, we had always had multiple options for political parties. It's either you go for consensus, you go for direct primaries or indirect primaries, depending on what the constitution of the party says. And by the time this amendment was being proposed that indirect primaries must be removed from the options available for the conduct of primaries. Some of us were of the view that it was a recipe for chaos, because this is a system that does not have any, determinable database of party membership, the resource and the capacity to organize direct primaries in every ward. It's not even available to most political parties. But, well, this is democracy. The majority will have its way. The minority will have its say. We did make a say then that this was like handing over, a sword to those who want to cut you down. Unfortunately, like you rightly said, members of the parliament are some of the direct victims of some of these, amendments. And I'm sure that, we are learning our lessons. It may be the hard way. And hopefully, when we have an opportunity to do things next time, we're going to be more, more detailed. We are going to be more circumspect. And again, we are going to be more careful to ensure that we do not allow an amendment of the Electoral Act too close to an election. I have been an advocate in Parliament that we should have done it from the first year of the 10th Assembly. I wrote about it. I spoke about it several times. You don't amend the rules to get an election so close to an election. It is a disservice not only to us as players, but to the democratic institution itself. The INEC needs a lot of time. The police need time. Everybody needs time to be able to study the provisions and apply them. And I hope that these lessons are learned in case, of future assemblies.
Quickly, my final question before I allow you go. You are the chair of the Imole campaign organization, and that's the campaign organization of the Accord Party and Senator Adeleke's re-election bid. And those on the other side, for example, Ambo Group, which is the APC governorship campaign, they have said that, look, your candidate and the governor should not dance too much, because they would drum for him to dance out of the government house in Oshogbo. Are you worried that the drums of war about this election is already...
Did you see the number of the campees that came into our court today? Over 10,000 new members from the All Progressive Congress defected today. Former members of the National Assembly, former honorable commissioners, former members, most of whom served under the immediate past government of Alhaji Boyega Oyetola. They camped into the accord today. Professional bodies like the Nigeria Labour Congress, the Nigeria Medical Association, the Trade Union Congress came out to endorse the governor. What is there to be scared of? We are coasting home to victory, and they know. They conducted survey and knew that if you conduct that election today or any other time, Adeleke will beat them blue and black and emerge as the victorious candidate in the August 15 election. They are the ones that are panicking. They are the ones that are jittering. We are solidly on course, and you have seen the evidence in what happened today, and you will see it in subsequent rallies and events that will be happening towards the election. I can assure you, Shehu, we are just waiting for August 15th so that Adeleke will again, be re-elected by the good people of Osun who have seen the good work that he has done, who have appreciated him for being a man of vision, a man of commitment, a sacrificial leader, a man who cares about the welfare of the people, who carries the burden of leadership with dignity, with responsibility. We are home, and we are just, very good, and we wish them, a time of lamentation immediately after the election, because that's exactly what will happen. Accord is on top.
Those who say that Adeleke has turned and painted Osun yellow and turned the state yellow. But I understand that Senator Adeleke's favorite song now is Emma Damiduro by Davido, his nephew, and he's praying that they don't stop him. But I hope that song will last for a long time, and it will not be turned.
Who can stop a man that God has ordained?
All right, thank
God
you so
has ordained him, God is with him, and the people are with him. He's unstoppable.
Honorable Bamdele Salam is the chair of the Imole campaign organization. That's Senator Adeleke's campaign organization in the August 15 governorship election. Thanks so much indeed, Honorable, for your time.
You for having me, Thank you.
Let's get back to our major story, and we've got some distinguished guests tonight on the program. But going forward, what would you say, Chieftain Wanyawu, is the biggest lesson The Court of Appeal used unusually strong language describing the lower court's conduct as judicial rascality, the highest form of judicial impertinence. Yes. What lesson do you think this owed not only for judiciary, but also for our politics?
Well, they use those words. And it's just for the person sitting on the bench to do the right thing. You see, unfortunately, there are still highly respectable judges with integrity, with character, that are still there. But in every society, you know, Jesus had just 12 disciples, but one betrayed him. So you can see there are some of them still in the bench that we have to fish them out. With time, Nigerians will be calling them out. So do the right thing at the judiciary. You don't have to do things through the back door in order to achieve a set goals. These Gestapo tactics should not be allowed into our political system.
Yeah. But as a lawyer,
yes,
Section 225A of the Constitution is the section that takes care of the registration of political parties.
Yes.
And is so sensitive and so one needs to be careful in interpretation. And it says the Independent National Electoral Commission shall have the power to re-register a political party for a breach of any of the requirements for registration.
Yes.
Any. It could mean anything. It could mean even you not wearing your cap. Any. And that's a very sensitive area. Do you think that is a thin line we need to be careful of, an aspect of the Constitution which gives a very, very strong power on a very, very tiny and a very sensitive area for any political party to be removed?
That is for INEC to determine, not for a judge to order INEC. You have read the Constitution. That is the ground norm.
But is it not the power of any citizen to ensure that a court should enforce the law when an agency of government or public office is not doing it?
You must show cause what you are going to lose by not doing that. You must show cause, and that's why we talk about locus. You must have a locus before you get to court. You cannot just fly. You have been an unsuccessful politician. If I borrow from one of my friends, unsuccessful political entrepreneur, and you decided to go to court. Somebody will push you to go to court to achieve a purpose. And let me say finally, I think President Tinubu should be very careful with some people who are claiming to be supporting him, that are doing overdrive. And this overdrive,
overzealousness.
Yes, it's making people lose interest in him. I'm not supposed to advise him because I'm also interested in that seat.
It's making him unpopular?
But making him very unpopular. There are people who ordinarily decided to support Tinubu.
But with this,
because of where he took over. But now, they're all gone. Because there are people around him who are claiming that they will do the... I think they want to write results. We are waiting. We'll give them the biro and the paper.
They are planning to rig the election.
We'll give them biro and paper to write the results. We will buy biro and paper for them to write the results. We are going to be in this country. We're not going anywhere.
But you dare them to rig the election.
There will be contest in this election. There will be contest.
All right.
It is not over.
Let me allow quickly, because of our time. Alhaji Dantale, you send us out of the studio with your final comment. What does this portray to you that the election, how competitive do you think this election will be? Because when we are seeing all of this handwriting and the campaigns have not opened yet for the 2027 election.
It will be highly competitive. IPAC, under my leadership, will do everything possible to ensure that we have democracy. And that is why we stood our grounds on some of the dirty provisions or some unfavorable provisions to democracy that are embedded in the Electoral Act. We have maintained this position that you don't solve a problem by addressing the symptoms. You solve the problems by getting to the root. The first thing that we have always advocated for is the removal of the power to appoint the chairman of INEC and the commissioners from the executive. You cannot appoint a referee, okay, while you are a player. That is the beginning. We must detach the umbilical cord between who drives the umpire and the executive first. And then INEC, that position must be made to be elective or independent. That is only when INEC will be fully independent.
Yeah. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I really appreciate. Alhaji Yusuf Dantale is the national chairman of APM and the umbrella body for all the political parties, which is IPAC. Thanks so much indeed for that. Chief Danuwaya, who is a lawyer and the national chairman of ZLP and the presidential candidate of the ZLP, is wearing, although physically one hat, but two hats tonight. But thanks so much, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. As a show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Seun Okimale. God bless Nigeria.